if you're doing sales and you're closing a deal, that adrenaline and that buzz and that excitement, it's almost similar like winning a football match.
For sure. Yeah, so it's nice to channel that. And the whole team play aspect. If you're not a good team player in any business, you will actually go bankrupt, right?
I actually have a football chart of 11 players, and I'm placing in the defense our product team. And then our offense team or the attackers are the salespeople. And then in the middle is the marketing or other mediator team, the consultant and so on. The football player or the attack player cannot score a goal if the product is not good. And the product cannot be it cannot be sold well if the marketing team is not mapping the requirements and the buzzwords and the wording between the product team and the customer's product.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Leaders in Tech podcast. I am your host, David Mansilla. Today we have with us Azam Beyk. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me and for hosting the show as well.
It's my pleasure. For the audience and for everybody that knows, this podcast is dedicated to interviewing leaders in technology that are really making a difference in the companies they're leading, the groups that they're leading. And it's a pleasure to have you with us, Azam. Tell me, for the audience, a little bit more information about you. Can you give me your full name? Where do you live? And what do you do for a living?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Azam Beyk. Coming profession-wise, coming from telco, been in the telco industry for many years now. Originally, I'm telco engineer as well. But behind my engineering background, there is something a bit more profound, which is I'm coming from professional football as well, background sports. I'm based in London, UK. I'm been
professional football?
Yeah, I played professional football, not soccer, but football. Well, actually, soccer in America, but not American football. What is known football as in Europe. In the rest of the globe, we know it football. In America, they know it as soccer.
Right.
So I played for 5 seasons. So my original background comes from sports, but I also developed loads of curiosity and passion for technology. And then eventually, after a number of years, I moved into technology, and then I started to climb the ladder, basically step by step, over 15 years period. Currently, I'm based in London, UK, but I travel globally anywhere, almost anywhere.
This podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
So you're based in UK. So I understand you founded this company, right?
Correct, yeah, Neoma.
What do you guys do? What is this about?
So Neoma stands for, let me just give you a bit of background there. Neoma, the spelling is N-I-I-O-M-A, but the original spelling is N-E-O-M-A. If you search on Google, you would find it's derived from a Latin and Greek word Neoma, which stands for a new moon. And I'm a guy who likes symbols, and the new moon symbolizes a start fresh, basically. And we are in the era of AI. People started now to pick up and understand the huge impact AI will have on our business, but also societies and our life in general. And Neoma is basically resembling that. It's about a fresh start, a new beginning. And as a business, we've been in making for the past 2 years and a half. There are 2 elements, B2B and B2C. On the B2B side, we're trying to help enterprise Fortune 2000 to accelerate the digital transformation. And we're trying to help 15 million vendors, high-tech SME vendors, to become more visible to the enterprises. So basically, we're facilitating the business engagement between enterprises and vendors on the B2B side. But then on the B2C side, every employee, every developer, salesman, consultant, program manager want to have a better economic opportunity or a better financial life. Instead of being stuck in one job, they can now have multiple job streams and actually get notified for a potential revenue. Could be hourly rate, daily rate, or it could be a commission, just a little bit more money than what they normally earn. And that's all thanks to the AI and the advancements of AI techniques and technologies.
That is great. Now your background is very interesting. You are the first leader in technology that I interviewed that has a professional sports background. So I would love to get into that. So let's jump back in time. Where was Azam in the last year of high school? I assume you were already in the UK. You were born in the UK?
No, I wasn't born in the UK. So this is where my story gets a bit confusing. Originally, I'm from Croatia, a small, tiny, beautiful country in Central Europe. Became extremely popular and famous recently since 2018 because we played the World Cup. We were second to France, and that's when Croatia became really popular. I was born and raised there. And then I moved to Serbia, and then I moved to Bulgaria. I moved to Middle East as well for a few years, and then I moved to Italy, and I moved finally to the UK. I lived in a number of countries. And each country I live in, I play football and I pick up the language and the culture, which they all became part of my DNA, if you like.
That's amazing. How many countries? 5 countries?
Yeah. 5 or 6 countries. 6 countries. I lived in 6 countries. 5
when
languages.
did you start move? Like, so okay, so you were born in you were born in that. Yeah, I know you. I mean, Croatia is a beautiful country. I've never been, but I want to go eventually. So you were born there. How old were you when you started moving to other countries?
About 7 years. 7 years. On average, each country, we lived in each country 7 years. Now the UK is the longest. I've been in the UK since 2014.
That's amazing. So where was the first place that you moved? I guess your parents moved you there, right?
From Croatia, moved to Serbia. We moved because of the war at the Yugoslavian time. And then because of the economic situation, it wasn't good. So we moved to Bulgaria. But then again, it wasn't that good. So we moved to Middle East. And then in Middle East, we as a family had a split of opinions. Some of us wanted to go back to Balkan, Yugoslavia or Bulgaria. Other ones wanted to stay. And then the third one wanted to get married. And then they went to another country. And I decided, okay, since I'm alone here, let me just move to the UK. There are a lot of synergies, a lot of things that attracted me in the UK: business mindset, technology mindset. London is a great hub for technology. And I had that idea at some point, I need to start up my business. And I didn't want to be far from my family as well. So going to California, going to the Silicon Valley was very far from my family. My family's in Europe now. So I thought maybe London could be kind of a middle ground between actually hitting that balance between family and business.
So did you have family still back in the Middle East?
No, not at the moment, no. I mean, we visit, but not close relatives, I wouldn't say.
You know, people don't get I live in North America, and people don't get over here that Europe is very close to everywhere. Because the Middle East is called the Middle East because it's the middle, right? So it's not that far away, right? Like 5-6 hour flights, you're anywhere, right?
Yeah, even less. For us, the average flights were 2 hours to 3 hours. Yeah.
You see, it's fast, right? My sister used to live in Qatar for 10 years, and she will say, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to Europe for the weekend."
Yeah, exactly.
It was a 2 hour flight.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Azam, how did you fell in love with football? How did you get into that?
I don't have those memories, but my mom has. So I was 2 years or 3 years, and this is when I started working. So I started to work very early. And, family relatives would buy me small balls as gifts, and I start kicking the balls. I don't have those memories, but my mom told me that I used to run very good as a child, as a 2-year-old toddler, and I used to kick the ball very strong. But then once I started to grow up and become, I started to develop memory. Then my first memories I remember in the street. I just loved having the ball with me and kick the ball everywhere. I keep running. And I was better than my peers of my age. So I was always like telling my mom, I need to start with a football club. I need to start exercising. I need to learn. I need to practice. And then eventually, when I became 14, 15, I did join a football club. And then within a year of joining the club, I actually signed my first professional contract. And then I spent 5 years
within a year.
Within a year, yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
I mean, how far did you go? So you were moving countries and you kept playing, right? So you kept going to different clubs, right?
Not really. So when I moved to Middle East, that's where I joined my first professional contract, and I've played for 5 seasons. And then towards the end of that season, I moved to Bulgaria. I played half a season, and then opportunity came, and I played a season in the UK with a Step 5 club, and that was the last season. Let's say season number 6, if you like, because of injuries. So I couldn't really continue. I had 3 major injuries in my right knee, so I had to kind of stop the career and then continue with masters and then continue with my other career, which was in business technology.
So that's the problem with sports, right? I also, one of the persons I interviewed, he was a professional hockey player.
Okay.
And he was destined to the NHL. I mean, he was already there, and a couple of games, and he got injured, heavily injured, and he had to quit. Imagine all the work to get to the top, just to enjoy it for a couple of months, and then having to leave.
Exactly, you're spot on, David. Normal people don't realize how tough is sportsman life. A lot of exercising, a lot of discipline, dieting, sacrifice, just to play a game that is 45 minutes or 90 minutes. And then you get bad injury, and then forever you cannot play anymore. So I did fight the first injury, but then unfortunately the rehabilitation didn't go well. So I had to go through another surgery. Then I played for almost maybe 2 years on and off. It wasn't so good. I started to realize my performance is going down. Maybe it's the time to hang my boots and just call it off. By the time I was thinking about that, the third injury came in with a third surgery, and I said, okay, that's it. But there are good examples.
That to just leave it, right?
But there are really great examples. Since you opened this topic, I'm very passionate, because people only see kind of the success, the tip of the iceberg. They don't see all the sacrifice below the iceberg. There are really great examples like Roberto Baggio from Italy. He had 6 major injuries and surgeries in his right knee as well. But he continued. He played in the World Cup. He became top player. You have to fight it, but it's not easy, and it's not for everyone.
For sure. So, Azam, how did you transition from being a professional football player into technology? Did you go to school? Like, what did you do after you said, okay, I'm no longer gonna do professional football playing? How was that transition?
Yeah, so I did seek a university. So I started bachelor degree in a university that allowed me to be a professional football player. So I actually studied on professional sports scholarships. I had full scholarship because of my football career. So they allowed me to do that. So it was a lot of discipline to manage the time between being a football player and also student. Now the transition, the careers, when I had to make the decision, finally, it wasn't easy. It took me nearly 2 years to make that transition, because I needed to get out of the psychology. You're done, man. You can't play anymore. And this is not your career. This is not where your salary is going to come from. Forget about it. Now, try to embody the new mindset. You're now a technologist. You might become a CEO at some point. Follow the other dream you have. So it was a very painful transition that lasted for about 2 years, within which I needed to revise my knowledge. I obtained my master's degree during this period in the UK. And then eventually I landed on my first job in the UK in the business technology area. And then gradually started to basically climb the ladder since then. It has been almost 12 years now.
12 years. Wow. So what was your master on?
Mobile and satellite communications.
Satellite communications. So that's amazing. And kudos for you, because making that transition is not easy, right? I didn't have to do that. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to become an airplane pilot, and I joined the military to do so because I didn't have any money to pay for private lessons. So, but then when I was about to get into the flight school, they closed it down because of the war. They pretty much eliminated all the planes. So they didn't have any needs for pilots. So then I discovered computer science. But, I was a kid still, right? I was 16, 17 years old. So I never had to choose between, like I've been a computer scientist all my life, running, technology businesses or being a tech leader. But having somebody like you having to choose, that must be very hard, because it's completely different. Now, the good thing is that you have the discipline, and discipline you can transfer to anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. I always try to explain this to some colleagues and to my wife a lot. So when I met my wife first time, I told her I'm athlete in core of my heart. So I have to go to the gym. I have to do my professional sports, like exercise. And then I can then focus on the other things in life. It's really sad not to be in the changing rooms, smelly clothes, smelly colleagues, everything, sweat. But that energy, that passion inside the room is something I really miss till today. I was actually evaluating the option of continuing the career as a manager or coach or analyst in the football, but emotionally it was very tough to handle it. So I was like, unfortunately at that time it was black or white for me. So I just decided to leave the whole profession all at once altogether. Yeah. And then the other point you said is completely different. It is different in many ways, but there are other similarities with business technology. There's the pressure. There's a lot of pressure, especially when you're on business level, executive, you're leading a team, there's leadership, there's the business pressure, but there's also, if you're doing sales and you're closing a deal, that adrenaline and that buzz and that excitement, it's almost similar like winning a football match.
For sure. Yeah. So it's nice to channel that. And the whole team play aspect. If you're not a good team player in any business, you will actually go bankrupt, right? The culture of making sure everybody is working towards the same goal, that's pivotal for any business success, right?
Yeah. You know what's funny? I mean, I like you grasp the idea. So when I go back and sit down with my sales team, executive team, and my product team, I actually have a chart, football chart of 11 players, and I'm placing in the defense our product team. And then our offense team or the attackers are the salespeople. And then in the middle is the marketing or other mediated teams like consultants and so on. So I try to explain them on the chart. The football player or the attack player cannot score a goal if the product is not good. And the product cannot be, it cannot be sold well if the marketing team is not mapping the requirements and the buzzwords and the wording between the product team and the customers perfectly. So kind of I'm using that analogy of football with my team. We're a relatively small team, so it works from that perspective.
That's brilliant. I never heard that before. It makes so much sense. That's great.
It's easy to convey what's in your mind because everyone watches football. Everyone more or less understands football. What are the duties of an attack player, midfield, or defender? So it kind of gives it a lot of clarity, helps them with clarity, basically.
Azam, what was your first job right after college?
In the UK, so I joined as a research assistant in the field of 5G communications.
5G, yeah, because of your master's, right, in satellite communications.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you start growing in that career? Like, what happened? What happened next?
So I decided to exit football. I moved into masters. While I was doing masters, I was a research assistant on the 5G topic. I wrote a paper, and I had this passion. So if it wasn't football, I loved academy. I loved the deep technical stuff around the technology. But at the same time, I didn't like to write a paper that is meaningless or doing just research that doesn't translate into business or doesn't have impact on people's life. Besides that, there are other kind of side effects. You know, academy, unlike in US, in the UK, unfortunately, academics or research doesn't get paid well, and you need to be paid well to live generous life. So I thought, okay, maybe it's enough with academy. I'm not going through the PhD route. Let me start moving gradually into industry and then grow my business technology kind of career from there. So from research assistant, moved into product architecture, and then quite quickly moved into, I actually joined Vodafone. I went into as a new technology product manager, technology specialist, basically, where initially, and that was the first time I started to interact more with the C-levels. My manager at that time was seasoned, almost going into retirement. He saw the talent in me. So he started to put me a lot in front of the executives and told me, just learn. During the meeting, but just learn how they communicate, and you start translating between the lower level, engineering level, and then you start mapping out things on the business level. It was a very good time of learning and coaching by this guy. I'm always grateful. His name is John, by the way. Then that actually opened up my career since then. So then I joined a Polish-based company, very well known in software, called Comark. I joined them for 5 years, and I done pre-sales and leadership in the UK and Ireland, and then American speaking or English speaking countries, like including North America.
So you actually got into pre-sales with them?
Pre-sales, yeah, pre-sales.
Now it's 100% software, right? So
yeah, software. Exactly, yeah. So that was a big transition, and I found myself, I have that consultant skills, and I did exceptionally in that job. And then basically this my career grew from there.
That is amazing. So when was it that you had the idea to start your own business?
Since I got independent from my parents when I was 14 years old, which was almost the same time when I started football, I went into professional football. The reason why, because of the background we lived, as we're living through war, we were poor, we lost the house, we lost the money, everything, which are all the normal things that happen to those people and some people that live in war. So I thought, okay, football wasn't paying that much money, it wasn't Premier League, so it wasn't like a high amount of money, but it was just good enough to sustain my life throughout the month-on-month basis. So I thought, okay, I love business technology, I love team leadership. Maybe at some point I become a CEO. And also my background, living the war, living in multiple countries, interacting with people from various cultures. I myself, I speak 5 languages. So all these kind of combined things, self-reflection, I thought, okay, I could make actually a good leader. I will need to start a company, but I wasn't ready there because I didn't have the expertise. I didn't have the industry expertise. You need to learn how to develop a product, how to sell a product. You need to know how the organization works from a structure, from human perspective. So I needed to accumulate that expertise before I start my own business. In the last 2 or 3 years, I started to sense a bit of shift in my career. And I thought maybe it's now the time. It's not something you plan and it will happen. It's something you feel inside you. As all the important things in your life, you start to feel them, like when do you want to get married? When do you want to have kids? Those are feelings. It's not something comes from your head. It's just something I can't explain. I don't think anyone can explain. It just happens inside you. So last year was a big year for me. I went through a self-reflection. I thought, okay, I have a strong executive team. Some of them work with Bill Gates directly. Some of them scaled up businesses to multi-billion. We're all aligned with the business idea on the validation on how the business should run and grow. They just started. And I did quit my previous position and I dedicated myself full-time on Neoma since the beginning of this year.
That's fantastic. So how is that going? Because I know running your own business is very fulfilling, but it's very hard at the beginning. For me, it took 5 years to really think that I was stable. You're never stable in a business, by the way. You're never stable, but you can actually kind of think, okay, now I have enough experience, I have enough clients, I kind of know how to sell myself, how to pivot when the market crashes. I've been in business for 20 years now. We were 20 years in May. And I tell you, we keep reinventing ourselves and pivoting and changing. Technologies change. How is that going for you, Azam?
I spoke a lot in the previous answers, tried to make it concise, but very sharp. It is an emotional roller coaster for those individuals who don't know how to control their emotions and stay calm during this roller coaster. It's not for you, or go and get trained. Just toughen your emotions and have a tough mentality. In one word, resiliency. You have to be resilient and just keep going. Exactly what you did throughout the 5 years. You had to pivot, you had to change, you had to examine, evaluate. So all these kind of terminologies inside you, it's an emotional roller coaster. Self-belief, believing in the team. Am I going to make the deal? I'm going to make the living for next day, and I have kids to feed. All these kind of questions to all executives, all entrepreneurs have to answer on daily basis before sleeping and after waking up.
Yeah, and you're competing with very established companies, and you're trying to get market share, and nobody knows you, and you don't have any reputation. It's not easy, but it's very fulfilling. And to your point, either it's not for you or go get trained. I had to learn that the hard way. I wouldn't take no for an answer, and I was almost bankrupt 3 times in my career. And Azam, I tell you, I didn't know that I needed to get trained on how to become a good entrepreneur, how to become a good leader. 5 years into the business, I got an angina that was, a heart attack because I couldn't manage the roller coaster. I couldn't manage the up and downs, and that woke me up. I'm Christian by faith, and because of the business, I lost my faith. I focused so much into business books and technology books and join all these groups, trying to learn how to run the business, that I ended up in hell. I forgot my family. I forgot my kids. My whole life was focused on my career, on growing that business. And that's, by the way, that's very stupid to do, because I started the business to have a better life for my family to begin with. So the whole purpose was to provide for my family. And I forgot that focus, and it was so hard that my whole focus was surviving and then thriving, and then how do I grow it? And I forgot the main objective. And that's what got me to hell. I almost lost everything, including my business. But the Lord rescued me from hell, and he opened up my eyes, and he showed me how it needs to be done. And, I took a 1-year leadership course, for example, for technologists like me, because I was just a developer that wanted to become an entrepreneur. And I think if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have started the business, because it was very tough. So that part of ignorance is also good, because it's you just jump into the water and you learn how to swim in the middle of the water. What you don't know is that there's going to be like horrible storms and hurricanes inside that water, and it's like on purpose the world tries to push you down and drown you, right? If you make it, Azam, you make it. It's very fulfilling. That's why I do this podcast. My company is self-managed now. I have, everything is being delegated, so I have the freedom of time, and I enjoy giving that back, so that we could save, a couple of headaches, or a couple of years of hardship to somebody that is listening. This is all worth it, because I wish I had that when I was doing all these silly things.
I couldn't find better words to describe how it feels. You did a really good job, actually.
But it is fulfilling, and it is possible. My last job, I was in charge of this software side of this 500 million a year company, and I ran all the software. My team ran everything. It was a franchise business. And my boss, when I told him I was going to quit to open my own business, he told me, David, so I live close to Toronto. So in Toronto, there's 2,000 companies that do what you want to do. And they have experience. They have a lot of money in the bank. And I had nothing. Azam, I had nothing. I didn't even raise money, because I had tried to do my first business when I just graduated college, and I got into a huge loan. And that's another story, but I was able to sell the business and pay all the debt. So this time I wanted just to do it bootstrapped. So he told me, what you're going to do is either you're going to have a zombie company and you're going to be poor all your life, or you're going to go bankrupt and you're going to have to go look for another job. That was his advice. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be successful. And, I'm decided to be successful, and I shall make it happen. But he was kind of right. It's just that the resilience that the Lord allowed me to have, and the people that the Lord allowed me to meet throughout the journey is what has me where I am right now. But I reached financial independence, which is one of the other things that I always wanted, right? One of the things why I started my own company is because I was always late to the schedule. So, when I was in corporate for 10 years, and meetings after meetings and meaningless meetings, they just wanted to meet to show that they were working. And I'm like, come on, like I could have a tenth of those meetings and produce more, but they wanted me to be there. Or, I had to be there at 8. I had to leave at 5, 6 p.m. And sometimes I would be warming up my seat. So I was just doing research. So I'm like, this is going to be a better way to do this. I was craving that freedom. But the price of that freedom at the beginning, Azam, I was working 17 hours a day. It was 10 times worse than having a corporate job.
You're talking about corporate job and the useless meetings, and that you can be productive 10 times more. I do fully agree with you. And actually, a few days ago, I was reading an article about some common traits between successful entrepreneurs. One of the biggest traits that are mutual is interesting. They worked in corporate life, but it didn't work for them, so they kept hopping jobs. And they didn't get along with those enterprises on the corporate kind of career, and they ended up establishing their own business. Why? Because they simply think like you. They have different mentality, different mindset. They cannot sit there not being productive they cannot sit there on useless meetings and just listening people pretending to work. They are genuine, they're straightforward, they are honest, but they're also execution oriented. So these are kind of common traits between those successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to me. And if you add technology to that, you know, we had remote developers in 2005 when it wasn't popular. And it was so hard to convince my clients that my coders were not in my office, you know.
Yeah.
But we made it happen because back then we already had technology to do remote sessions and share screens and do what we're doing now. So just people didn't know or didn't want to do it. But I was a technologist, I knew, right?
Yeah.
Azam, what's in the future for you?
You asked me a lot of good questions. Probably one of the best podcasts, to be honest, David. What's in the future for me? For me personally, I don't know, but I would love to be the leader that people look up to. I want to be able to unlock a lot of success to other people. I want to be able to bring peace to this planet, even on a smaller scale. Maybe my dream is too big. Maybe I die before it happens, but that's what I would love to see.
You know, I did a podcast yesterday, and the guest told me, you know, just be valuable, add value.
Yeah.
You know, and what you're saying, bring peace to the world. It's not difficult if we all pull in our own little bit of part, right? Like if you decide to be valuable, if you decide that you are going to help society, not damage it, if you decide that by working, whatever it is that you do, a software engineer or, you know, network engineer or, you know, a business entrepreneur, if you decide that today I'm going to try to add value to the world, if everybody decides the same thing in a peaceful way, we will have peace in the world. The problem is that people think they deserve things, Azam, and because you went through war, I went through war too. My country was in a 30-year war. It was horrible. My brother died in that war. So when you know the lack of peace, when you know what hostility brings, you don't take anything for granted, right? You are successful and I am successful because we've seen how bad humankind can get.
Yeah.
And when you come to societies like, I assume London is pretty stable, Canada is pretty stable. When you come to these countries and you realize the freedom that you get just by having peace, certain peace in the society, because it's deteriorating really fast. I came to Canada in 1991 and now it's horrible compared to back then, but it has nothing to compare back to the war that I was experiencing, the war that you experienced. So we take it for granted, and then people start becoming entitled, and they think they deserve this and they deserve that, and they want the government to sustain them, and they want the government to do everything for them. And so when you have this mentality that no, I should get instead of I should give, that's what breaks peace. If you look at the protest that turns into riots, all what people is, I want more, me, I am the victim. You have to switch that mentality in people, and when they decide, no, what can I give today? How can I make my neighbor better? And forget about my own needs. And you know, this is in my scriptures, this is in the Bible. You know, love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you do that, then if everybody is committed to add a little bit of value that day, to be peaceful, to actually look at your neighbor's needs before your own needs, that's how you achieve peace. And it's possible, right?
Yeah,
you know, half of the world is at war right now, and it's horrible, right?
Yeah. There's another saying in Islam, something similar to what's mentioned in the Bible, is love for others what you love for yourself.
Right. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing. You know, they asked Jesus, what is the biggest commandment out of the whole, you know, the whole law? And he said, love your God with all your soul or your mind or all your heart, and love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yeah.
And he said, those two commandments combines the entire Bible. the prophets on the law are combined in these two commandments. So it's not difficult. You don't have to be a super theologist. And I have, you tell me the same in your tradition. So it's like, come on, let's respect each other. Let's see how we can add value, and let's agree to disagree in some things. And that's okay. That's what freedom gives you, right? Like, we live in a free society. Let's enjoy it without harming each other, without, the polarization now in countries, right? As I'm like, either you're left or you're right, and you cannot talk to me if you're left, or you cannot talk to me if you're right. And it's like, I never seen this before. People agree to disagree before. They learn how to coexist. You may have different ideas than I have. That doesn't mean you're a bad person or I am a good person. Let's just try to help each other out.
And enjoy life. Yeah, which is
enjoy life. For Christ's sake, we live in a beautiful world.
Exactly.
Right? We live in a beautiful world. Like, just the seasons, the abundance. I tell people, my God is a God of abundance. If you look at nature, if you look at how everything procreates, it's exponential abundance is built into the equation of life. One kernel of corn has 52 seeds, and each seed will give you one plant, and one plant will give you 2 or 3 more kernels. That's exponential.
Yeah.
I went to see a pond. They were teaching how fish reproduce, and they were telling me this tiny fish, every time it lays eggs, it lays 1,000 eggs, and each egg becomes another fish.
1,000 eggs. Yeah. I wasn't aware of this.
One female on this specific species, right?
Yeah.
We mess up the world. The world has this stupid idea that the world cannot sustain more humans. So stupid. So excuse me, right? But think about it. If I told you that one fish produces 1,000 eggs, the problem is the human greed. I tell people, oh yeah, we're overpopulated. Okay, so I'm from Guatemala. Guatemala has 15 million people, and it's the size of Israel. It's very tiny. And yes, the city has a lot of people, but people coexist really well. And if I drive half an hour away to the countryside, there is nobody there already.
Yeah.
Let alone in Canada, where 40 million people in the second largest country in the world. It's empty. And the resources are there. As long as the problem is human condition, right? I am here to take advantage of you. I am here so I win and you lose. That's the wrong mentality. We are here to collaborate. For me, competition is cooperation, right? I love to have competitors because I can learn from them and they learn from me. And that doesn't mean what my boss told me, right? Don't go into business because there is 2,000 companies that do like what you do. I'm still in business 20 years later. Because we live in an abundant world, right? We just got to notch down the grid part, and be responsible for our own actions. And don't stop being demanding of what you deserve, and just ask for people. Think what people need and try to fulfill that need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we can talk about this topic for ages, actually. I love the human aspect and the psychology behind it. But I will follow your lead with the questions.
Sure. Azam, it's been almost 41 minutes. And I want to respect your time. I know you're a busy executive. I'll ask you one last question. Since we're in this topic and you made me talk about a lot of stuff that has very little to do with leadership and technology, but it's good for the leadership of the world, right? If you had access to a billboard in the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on it?
Do you mean like a statement for the public to read?
Yeah. So an inspirational statement in a billboard where everybody can read it, right? What advice will you give to the world?
I would go with what I mentioned earlier. Love for others while you love for yourself.
Beautiful. That's fantastic. Azam, thank you so much for your time. If people like to follow you or become your client, or they want to hire, they want to work for you, where can they find you?
I'm active on LinkedIn. My business email is azam.beyk@neoma.com. I'm based in London, UK. Very easy going, very accessible. Whoever wants to talk to me, chat, questions, I'm happy to connect.
And what's your website address?
www.neoma.com.
Neoma.com. Azam, thank you so much for being in the podcast. May the Lord bless you and prosper you in your business. If you have any question at all, if I can humbly help you, just set up an appointment and I'll be here for you.
Thank you for having me again, David. It was a really good podcast. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.